Hello and welcome to the Comic-spiracy, episode 324 for the week of September 12th, 2017. My name is Ryan Higgins, who is here with me this week.
Brock Sager.
Bryce, Charles, and Toby.
Whoa. You're all 3 in 1.
Yes, today I will be.
And finally,
Kevin Sharp.
Kevin, welcome back.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, you're here for sad reasons. We need your expertise, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. We are entering
That's
like
not foreboding.
We are entering like the third or fourth week of like no like comic book news. So
We should start some.
There's none. I mean, I get nothing.
Can you get your inner troll?
Well,
can you get your inner troll out and start some shit?
For all those people that love talking about the industry over that, we do have some comments here because we're going to talk sales charts for August, but also about the health of the industry as a whole right now, which, you know, once again, it seems to be every day or two comes around that, comic industry is dying. You know, I've been hearing this since the 90s. Kevin, you've probably been hearing this since the 80s.
Yes.
And, yeah, you know, you go back and you read those old things in the back of the comics where they're like, comics aren't what they used to be back in the 30s. So yeah, let's talk about some sales charts here. We are going to go for August 2017 for everyone listening. If you don't know, what we do is I like to get these guys to guess the top 10 comics sold to North American-based comic book stores. It's called the direct market through Diamond Comics. This is not what we sold. This is what we're sold to comic book stores. So,
yeah, because seeing the actual sell-through numbers would be pretty interesting.
Well, at this point, if you're not selling out of most stuff, you're not doing a good job. So, as I have cut, well. We'll talk about the industry in a few. What are the top? Okay, there are actually only there are not that many actual titles in the top 10. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and the character wise, it's a weird month. It's a really strange month. So, what are the top 10 comics of August 2017?
DC Metal.
Dark Knight's Metal, number 1. At 261,997 comics, the number 1 comic of 2017, and outsold even the highest-selling Rebirth title from 2016, which was DC Rebirth. Mm-hmm. A absolutely humongous book for DC.
Yep.
Dark Knight's Metal. It's the number 1 book.
Let me throw in Secret Empire.
Secret Empire, not 1, not 2, but 3 places in the top 10. So, you know, despite the numbers not being what Marvel probably wants, they're still selling well.
And it's got those numbers in the top 10 because it was shipping bi-weekly?
Yeah, and there's 3 of them in October because it was 5 weeks.
August.
They went first, third, and fifth.
Because they had a delay.
Yeah, so number 10 is the number 4 comic at 86,000. Number 8 is the number 6 comic at 81,000. And number 9 is the number 7 comic at 77,000. So there's a 10,000 gap between 9 and 10, which, again, I have to assume is variant cover based because there was definitely more variant covers for number 10. So you're looking at, roughly,
So that was for issues 8, 9, and 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And it was 10 was 4.
10 was 4, 8 was 6, and 9 was 7. But that's a big jump for number 10. I'm actually surprised. But I guess thinking of our orders, we probably had, a good 10-15% more covers on the shelf.
It's because of the variants. I mean,
there was more covers.
9 didn't have that many variants. So
8 and 9 were just normal.
Yeah.
How about Batman?
Batman, number 28 and 29 are the number 2 and 3 books at 104,000 and 100,000 for 29. So
I feel like we're playing Family Feud here with each number turning over.
Batman's had a nice little bounce. It kind of dipped under 100,000, but we're back over 100,000 here. So,
did Mr. Miracle hit it?
No, I actually don't know where Mr. Miracle is here. Let me look. Well, it's pretty low.
So we've gotten 6 of the top 10.
Mr. Miracle is a 60th title at 33,000. There was a talk with Jim Lee and Mitch Gerdes the other day. He did a Facebook Live talk. And Jim Lee said that Mr. Miracle is the extremely rare comic where 2 outsold 1 and 3 outsold 2. Their initial orders for number 3 are higher than 2, which are higher than 1. So you're going to see Mr. Miracle soar up the charts. hopefully hit the top 25.
The second print of number 1 comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm sure the second print was ordered in as many quantities as the first print. We'll get a huge bump for the number 1.
Wise came out last month.
So we've gotten 6.
6, yep. You got
of the top 10. Secret Empire, Batman, and Metal.
And then you got 2 more books that represent 4 titles, or four spots on the chart. So
Star Wars?
Star Wars. 34 and 35 are number 9 and 10 at 66,000 each. Only a couple hundred copies in between them. And one other title, 2 issues, technically 2 one-shots, part of a series. It's going on August and September.
Oh, was it the Jack Kirby stuff?
No. Those are way down.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. They weren't that good. I don't.
Okay,
it's Marvel. It's Marvel. It's one-shots.
Oh, the Generation stuff.
Features all your favorite characters and other new characters that nobody cares about. Generations.
Jean Grey and...
Oh.
And, what was
well, come on. What's
Iron
number
Man?
1? What's number 1? What's the top? What's the highest? What are the 2 highest selling? This should be very easy.
Well,
Wolverine and
Hulk.
Thor.
Oh yeah, Thor.
So Wolverine, Generations Wolverine and All New Wolverine is the number 5th, as the 5th book at 85,000 copies, that's surprising. I mean, our numbers definitely were. I went a good deal higher on all the Generations titles than the base title, but I didn't think a lot of stores were. But these numbers are nothing to sneeze at. And Thor and Mighty Thor was the number 8 book at 76,000. So
Thor is the only one that really ties into anything Legacy.
Yeah.
The rest were just
pretty direct in. Yeah. Another good thing about this month, besides having Marvel Legacy number 1 will outsell Metal number 1. There's no doubt in my mind. But besides, another good thing, the 300th place comic of the month sold 5,621 copies, which is the highest number since December 2015. Of course, all these numbers come from our good friends over at Comic-Con. Definitely check them out. These guys are awesome. But yeah, this has been another month where the sales are compared to the August month of last year, right? The 3rd month of Rebirth, where sales were still through the roof. You're still fully returnable by DC. You're the 3rd set of number 1s. You're just coming off FOC for issue 2, so numbers are still high across the board. And we're talking on 20 some odd titles, 30 titles, right? This isn't like 2 or 3 books. And the fact that we are within 7% year to date through August is I think incredible. That how quiet this year has been for comics, and we are only 7% under units shipped. Now, if you look again month to month, it's down 25%. But again, I don't think that's a fair comparison, because you're looking at the biggest launch of comics in the last, since the New 52, basically, to just kind of a normalish month with a big event.
I think the thing is we're a year into Rebirth at this point, and I mean the sales on Rebirth titles have stayed fairly consistent. I mean the attrition is still there, but it's.
Yeah, but DC has a lot more titles in the top 50 than they used to, right?
Yeah.
A lot of titles in the top 50 where it used to be, pretty Marvel dominant.
Ryan, would you say that if you compared, I don't mean numbers wise, I just mean generally to you.
Yep.
Rebirth versus the New 52, as far as success for you personally?
New 52 probably did better overall, because this was sort of the first time, right? I think the drops in Rebirth came a little quicker because of the double shipping. Mm-hmm. However, the highs are higher, so Batman is higher than the Snyder Batman. Well, 12 issues in? No, we were probably 24 issues in. See, it's tough, because if you count 24 issues in, we're higher. If you count 12 issues in, we're not. 12 months in, right? And I think that's the problem. But by year 3 of New 52, that's when the numbers started to drop very fast. And we're in, 24 issues plus in on New 52 on Rebirth, and
30
they are
issues in on some title.
well, right, but that's what I mean. We're past that point. We're past that 2-year point. We're into the third year. The third set of 12 issues, right? And I think our numbers are more consistent. They may not be as high as some of the higher ones, but we also didn't. You're going to remember how many of those New 52 books were just killed right off the bat. A huge chunk of them. Well, there's only like 3 or this. Of all the stuff that DC is publishing, there's only about 4 or 5 that I would consider like just complete failures for sales on our end.
Yeah, it's like the Blue Beetle, Cyborg.
Yeah, we talked about them. I think it was last week. No, Hellblazer's. Again, Hellblazer is fine compared to Hellblazer's sales.
Yeah,
long term, but I think what you're seeing with Rebirth is a more long term commitment, where I feel like the people that came in for the New 52 and left didn't come back, but the people that came in for Rebirth have stuck around a little bit longer.
I think it's also to do with. I think DC learned a lot of stuff, at least on the editorial side, during New 52. Because there was really like just a lot of tension, and we had a lot of spillover of people that were unhappy, and
it's tough to tell how much of that affects actual comic sales.
Well, it's not necessarily the sales itself; it's the content. Like I when I sit down and I'm reading a Rebirth title, it feels like the writer and the artist they had more of their story versus an editor's.
You remember all the crossovers that would constantly interrupt the New 52 titles. You had a ton of editorial trouble with New 52 early days, where you had a lot of the creative team leaves. The creative teams on Rebirth have been incredibly stable. We're going in 15, 16 months or something like that. There's only a handful of titles that have switched around creators. You've had fill-in. That's different. Those are always going to happen. That's not what I mean. But I mean the ongoing creative teams are extremely consistent on Rebirth.
Well, I think that transfers. That transfers to the quality of the work
and long-term sales
and long-term sales in the sense that people don't feel like, I have to jump over and grab. I'm getting Justice League Dark, but now I have to get Vampire because they're crossing over. Yeah. It was like every month it seemed like there was a crossover thing.
Despite some of the books not doing as well as I would like, there is no book that's just as, hated as the, Hawk and Dove or Team 7 or any of the garbage they were publishing during the various relaunches of New 52. That
Sword of Sorcery.
Yeah, just completely pointless titles. Yeah, now
I like Sword of Sorcery.
It was rough. There are a number of titles kind of underperforming. I think on the core DC end, or I should say the not core DC end. I think some of the Young Animal stuff isn't holding as well as I would like. They've had some success with the miniseries and various specials, but if it doesn't have that Rebirth tag on it, it's always going to be a little bit of a tougher sell. But I think I think they understand this, right? And I the majority of the sales, at least here, again, we've always skewed much higher DC, so they're within my range. And then you've had some just unparalleled hits like Mr. Miracle number 2's out tomorrow, and our sales are that's almost an entire shelf of Mr. Miracle up there because we sold the hell out of the first one. So many people asking for the second print. So, next month it's going to be real crazy because, we're in September now. So September, I expect, will be a pretty normal sales chart. Although DC should kill it because of the metal stuff, the crossovers,
the tie-in stuff. Yeah.
And Oz Effect, which comes out tomorrow as well. But no, I'm talking about October. Again, you're going to be in the middle of
metal.
The middle of metal. You're going to have all the big crossovers. You're going to have the back half of Oz Effect. You're going to have.
Does Doomsday Clock start in October?
No, it's November.
Okay.
You're going to have the first month of Legacy.
Yep.
So those alone, this 7% down unit sales on comic books year to date, we're going to make up a good chunk of that in October and November. November with a Doomsday Clock, the about half the books are shipping for Legacy in October, about a quarter in November. We assume the other quarter will be December, and they may have a couple more out after that. I don't think they've officially said, but you're down 7% with your strongest stuff still coming.
Yeah.
To me, I don't see how.
I think that is. I think it kind of leads back into what happened during Secret Wars. Because remember when Secret Wars was coming out, and it was the tail end of it, and we were still doing really well going out of 2015 into 2016.
But then it just
and then it was this tank, and and part of me is kind of getting the same vibe from the Legacy stuff. Legacy is going to help the comic book industry and hopefully Marvel in October, but how strong are those numbers going to be going into November and December?
Again, I can tell you mine because I had to put in my initial numbers for Legacy. We went. In the lowest instance, about 80% higher than our normal Marvel number on the Legacy lenticular covers for that issue. So on the lowest end, 2,500% higher on my number, right? Because we only order a couple copies, right? Yeah. And so I went a big flat number across the board for all the lenticulars. But on a couple of those titles that are double shipping, they have the next issue. So for X-Men Gold and X-Men Blue, I ordered, my normal number for the regular book because we'll give those to the regular people. All the lenticulars on top of it. We've pre-sold, I think, 17 or 18 sets already. Comicsconspiracy.biz or check out eBay. We got sets up there for all the lenticular covers.
Shameless plug.
And then for the next part, for the next issue, so let's say I ordered 40 copies, and then I'm jumped up to close to 100. So I'm ordering 120 plus with the variants and everything like that.
Marvel math and the lenticulars and all that stuff.
Well, with the next issue, I'm back to 35. So you're going to see this huge spike, and then right back to where it was. I see very little reason to continue any of these books at anything other than that one issue jump. Now it's going to be an awesome month, but. This isn't like Rebirth where I've had any interest from people signing up, and these are the same books, the same creative teams. There's a couple. Cap should jump up a couple copies. New creative team. They're trying to bring Captain America back to kind of prominence. Strangely enough, of all books, Iceman may grab some extra sales because they're bringing in the champions, like the old school champions. And if they could push that arc for an arc or two, I could see selling, 10 copies instead of 3, right? I mean, I'm not saying a lot, but
I was just trying to think of, does anybody even remember the champions?
Well, we're going to see.
Besides us old people.
Well, we're going to see, right? Because it's possible we could triple the sales, but again, we have such a low bar to triple. Spider-Man could jump up a bit, bringing Spider-Man back to normal. The X-Men Blue and Gold crossover, that Mojo crossover looks pretty fun. I think there's potential for some few extra people to grab onto that. But most of the books, I am not going to sell more copies of Royals than I did the previous issue. I just don't think there's any interest in a lot of these titles.
Of Gwenpool.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sub only on Gwenpool, and I'll get this one issue, and I'll be sub only the next issue. There's no reason for me to order more of these. So, again, the strongest part of 2017 is in front of us. I know there's certain YouTube personalities that tell you the comic world is ending and you should get out, but you should not listen to those people because the comic industry is fine. And if you don't go to your store, maybe it won't be fine, but don't screw your store out of comics. But it's going to be a big few months. Before we move on,
you still have to go over to the units and.
It doesn't matter.
I want to hear it.
I already closed the window. It was down. We're down 25% to August of last year, but
no. What are the units percentages and stuff this month?
I don't know. I already closed the window. Oh my god, I'll get it. Hold on.
You have to we do this every time. You can't just skip out on it now.
I can do whatever I want. It's my podcast.
So we're doing random picks later, right?
No, screw those. I hate those stupid things. Let me get to it. Let me get back to it. All right, here we go.
You, as a store owner, wouldn't you like the random pick because it spotlights something that's maybe gathering dust on your shelf?
Doom Patrol Volume 1. It is not
There's my answer.
It is not gathering dust. I just somehow like triple ordered the.
You ordered the old Grant Morrison Doom Patrol as if it were the DC Young Animal Doom Patrol.
And then like I reordered it thinking it was the wrong book a second time or something stupid. Like I don't know what the hell I did. I somehow made like 5 copies of that book. I have no idea why I ordered so many of those. So yes, if we go, the top 300 comics sold 6.59 million copies. That's minus 30% versus same month previous year, which sounds terrible.
But last year was the heart of, or like in the middle of the DC.
All comics sold by Diamond, 7.6 million, which is down 26% versus same month last year. However, year to date, 60.65 million, which is down 6% versus previous year. So again, we have the best stuff coming up for 2017.
Yeah.
If this year ends at even a % or 2 lower than last year, I call that success. I'm going to go out on a limb. I am putting my number is 1% over 2017 unit-wise. That's my number. That's my guess. Because I think the one-shots, the lenticular, and Doomsday Clock are going to come in at really high numbers. Legacy... We're looking 300,000 to 400,000 copies
the
for
Legacy one shot is going to hit high.
Legacy is going to be the number one book. I'm going to put it at about 350,000 copies. That's kind of my guess. I think Legacy is going to be huge. The lenticulars.
How many variants does that book have?
All the quite a few. All of the one shots for Metal should break 100,000 copies. Should. I'm not saying they're going to, but they should. All the crossovers should double their sales. We're going more than that, at least double sales. The Legacy books, again, there's potential for all these to break 80,000 copies, if not 100,000 copies on some of the top, the high ends for that one issue. Doomsday Clock could break 300,000 copies. They're all going to be fucking humongous titles. So, 1%, you heard it here. That's my guess.
So what was that? What was the % for Marvel, % for DC?
Let's get down to that. Marvel was 39.52% of all items sold last month, with DC being 31.09%. Now, remember, that does include trade paperbacks, reorders, and everything. Marvel had 104 items in the top 300, with 75 from DC. So, 8% higher, what is 7% higher, but 30% more product, so that's pretty significant.
That's pretty much kind of they're putting out that just to get that number.
And Marvel had 40 graphic novels, DC had 29.
Speaking of DC graphic novels, they are pumping those trades and hardcovers and like deluxe ones out.
Yeah,
good click.
When you take the dollar share, Image is still over 10%. Not for comics, but for comics graphic novels combined. So that's great. Image of 42 books in the top 300. That's a lot of titles. Image is putting out a lot of stuff these days. A lot of books. So yeah, there you go. This is August 2017. Comic industry is doing okay. Don't believe the hype. What you should believe the hype on, though.
Oh shit.
Is the king himself.
Oh, God, no.
Our Lord and Savior, Zack Snyder.
Excuse me.
I got to go to something really fucking cool yesterday, thanks to my lovely wife, Leanne, who works at San Jose State. Due to circumstances, which I don't need to get into the specifics here, Zack Snyder gave a talk at San Jose State yesterday. Director of such little movies as 300 and Watchmen and other movies I won't talk about right now. Sucker Punch, I think. And some other movies people may have heard us talk about once or twice on here, too. I don't remember.
I can just see Bryce's reaction to you talking right now.
So this was a two-hour talk he gave to students in the arts and film departments at San Jose State. It was about the first hour was kind of talking about his career, telling some funny anecdotes and sort of how he got started and how he got into making movies. And the back half was actually really fascinating, was his storyboards for one of the final scenes in 300 and then the opening about 10 minutes of Watchmen. So he told some really funny stories about making way more money doing ads, filming like international ads, than he did making his first couple movies. Like, because like didn't pay shit. Advertisements pay like stupid money.
Yeah.
Talked about how we wanted to really make a 300 movie, and no one cared because it was a dumb comic book thing, and no one wanted anything to do with it. And after the success of Dawn of the Dead, he was able to make 300. One of the things I think you said you read the script on this, right?
Watchmen?
For Watchmen.
Yeah. This is pre-Zack Snyder.
Yeah, so give us a little... Tell us...
Okay, so my recall of the specifics of the story is a little hazy at this point.
So it's not a total recall.
Ryan, you should put in a rimshot sound effect. There was a Watchmen script floating around that was set post 9/11, and so you didn't have the Nixon character. You didn't. It's Nixon in Watchmen, right? Not Reagan.
Yeah.
Nixon. So it's set in our world that just happens to have these superheroes in it. And I know that Paul Greengrass, who directed the best of the Bourne movies, is what he's probably best known for. And a 9/11 film called United 93. He also directed that. He was going to do this Watchmen as like a gritty, kind of, quote, realistic, unquote, as much as you could have with those characters, superhero movie. And I don't know whatever happened with that, why that production. I know they were really close to going into production on that. And then it fell apart for some reason. And that's when the Snyder version it grew out of the wreckage of that last one. And I know the pendulum swung much more toward the comic book for the Snyder version.
Well, I can tell you what he told us, which was they approached him after 300 and said, hey, we've tried to get this thing off the ground. We can't get it to really click, though. Do you want to take a shot at this? And he said he read the script and threw it in the trash because he was like, this is not Watchmen, right? He's like, this can't be made because you'll be crucified if you make this.
Yeah, it was an interesting script.
I'm paraphrasing here, of course.
Yeah, and
don't quote me on this.
One of the criticisms of Snyder's Watchmen movie is that it's just basic as 300. It's just, and I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just saying a criticism of it is it's just basically copying and pasting the graphic novel onto the screen.
Right.
He's recreating panels. He's recreating entire sequences. And the 9/11 Watchmen was very, very different from that. And so you or an individual would have to decide, would you rather see an adaptation of something that is completely faithful, beat by beat faithful, minus a few elements? There's Watchmen, the graphic novel, has a lot of text pages that obviously can't be put in the movie.
Right.
But
and those text pages go into like the back history of the earlier generation of superheroes.
Would you rather see a completely faithful adaptation where you can pretty much know every beat of the story that's coming because it's right off the page? Or would you rather see somebody like play a jazz riff with those characters and go off in different directions with the overarching themes would still be there and the shape of the story would still be there, but they might go off in completely unexpected directions.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong choice. I'm not saying a person has to choose it's black or white. The 9/11 Watchmen script was not faithful to the graphic novel on the page-by-page details, but I don't know that I would say it was bad. I could see how somebody says this is not Watchmen because it wasn't.
Right. I think that was that again, kind of listening to the short conversation about it, that's what it felt like to me. He's like, this is not Watchmen.
Yeah, that's fair. He's right.
Yeah. So, and your talk about what he, copy and pasting the comic is not entirely inaccurate because so we got to see his own personal storyboards for 300 and Watchmen. And so what he did was he had these, 8.5 by 11 kind of art books that he would make, and he said he spent months storyboarding all his own movies, drawing to complete storyboards for his movies. They had he said he had like a professional storyboarder that would come in and kind of redo it, but he wouldn't use the professional storyboard. He would use his own storyboards because and after a couple of movies, they finally said, whatever, you can find, you can do whatever. So he does all his own storyboarding. Not the best artist, but when you're storyboard, it's not about the quality of the art. It's about
it's getting the note down and the feel
the
and
film
so
direction
you know
and
what
everything.
You want.
So exactly right. What he did was he took panels from the comics and more so with 300, at least the parts he showed us, where he would be like, yep, and this is the comic panel. And then so, he was like on a projector so we could see his as he was flipping from page to page. And he would take, the Frank Miller panel there, then he would extend out the panel to look like a complete film shot, the aspect ratio and everything. Camera notes and everything. But no, I mean, with 300, there was a lot of there was a ton of actual comic pages in his own thing. So yeah, he said the panel where they're all kind of in like the circle with the spears sticking out, and what's his face? What's the main guy's name?
Gerard Butler.
Well, sure, Gerard Butler, but who's the actual guy in 300?
I can't think of the
I'm
character's
blanking
name.
out his name now. But he's kind of standing there with his helmet off. He's like, this was the panel that got this movie made. This was what I pitched them, and I said, this is what I want to make. So that was pretty cool. It was less so in Watchmen. Watchmen was almost entirely his. I mean, he had reference panels, but it was almost entirely his own drawings. He said apparently Dave Gibbons drew basically an entire new Watchmen comic for him, but he's not allowed to show anyone that. So unfortunately, he could not bring that, which would have been incredible.
We'll get that in an artist edition, like down the road from.
I don't even know.
I can tell you quickly on the topic of storyboards. You might enjoy this. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast in the past, but I was in a meeting where a Flash movie was being pitched at Warner Brothers. Now, this is an old Warner Brothers regime, not anything current. A Flash origin movie, Barry Allen, classic origin. And there were panels from the Showcase number 4. I think that's the right number. Showcase number 4, which is the first Silver Age Flash. There were panels used to illustrate certain sequences of the movie. And one of them is Barry Allen's eating in a diner, and a waitress drops a tray of food, and he catches all the items of food out of the air, puts them on the tray, catches the tray, and hands it back to the waitress.
Right.
This is 1956. Is this story? So that panel is blown up and shown, and I can vouch for this because I heard it verbatim. An executive in the room saw that on the easel and said, "We can't have you stealing sequences from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie."
Because that's exactly what they do in that movie. Yeah.
Yes, but not knowing that Spider-Man sequence was stolen from
45 years earlier.
Yeah, 45 years earlier. The Flash.
We've had this problem before where it's like, oh, the Avengers came first.
Yeah.
But that's just that. So just on the note of showing comics panels as storyboards.
Right. But no, look. Whatever people think of his movies, whatever people think of his movies, right? Super nice guy. I got to meet him very briefly, talked to him for a minute. Real down to earth guy, very funny. When we were talking about this briefly on the Geek Box last night, I said that the way he talks. Again, I don't mean for this to come off insulting. This is not how I mean it. He almost comes off when he's talking about the movies. Almost like a kid playing with action figures a little bit, where he's like, and I'm going through the panel, and when he shoots here, and this is the part where he jumps through the roof, and this is not cool, this is awesome, this is cool. And whether that makes a good movie or not, I'll leave up to critics to debate forever. You know how I feel about it. I know how you guys feel about it. But you cannot deny the guy's
passion
and his love for this stuff. And again, I feel like some people see that and it resonates with them. It resonates with me. It doesn't resonate for other people. But just hearing him talk about it, he loves this stuff. He probably said 3 times that Dark Knight Returns is his favorite comic of all time. And that's very obvious if you see his work. He clearly was highly influenced by early Frank Miller work, and he said it numerous times, that Frank Miller is like one of his biggest inspirations. Again, that might not work for some people, right?
I would put Zack Snyder in the same category as Michael Bay, in that it's an exciting technical filmmaker.
Right.
Really interesting shot compositions, interesting to watch, always something going on. My issues with both of those guys' films is not the directing or the director as a person or anything like that. It's at the foundational level, story-wise.
Right, right.
But Snyder as a film, I like the Watchmen movie.
Yep.
I like did he do Dawn of the Dead? Was that the remake?
Yeah.
Written by James Gunn.
Yep.
Now, look, everybody's big time now. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing a Snyder movie that's not DC related.
Well, he just filmed a short film, one day or one weekend, no budget, no special effects.
Great. I'd be excited to watch that.
Yeah, it's gonna show up online. He just tweeted about it like yesterday or something. So I don't know how that's gonna get released. Maybe a film festival, maybe it'll pop up online. But yeah, he's when he says no special effects, I don't know what that means. Obviously, but he's like, yeah, it was our friends in a weekend, and we just did it ourselves, like not on a Hollywood lot or not anything. I obviously, when you're at that level, you obviously know people who know what the fuck they're doing, right? So like, you know how to make certain things work that the common person couldn't really do in like a fan film or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the Joss Whedon Much Ado About Nothing that he filmed at his house on a weekend with just his friends.
Right. But his friends are all professional actors.
Yeah, right. That part. But it's nice to see, I'd be a fan of, I know this is not a film podcast, but I'd be a fan of a lot of these big directors go make a 2-week zero budget movie.
Yeah.
Try it. See what you get.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I think it's a good challenge for an artist. Swing yourself in a completely different direction than what you're used to doing. So Snyder, Justice League, Batman, Superman, Man of Steel, go shoot a romantic comedy. You know what? I mean, maybe
totally
not
different.
For the audience who's listening to this, but think of how you're flexing the artistic muscle doing that.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, we talked obviously a lot about David Lynch in the last couple months with the return of Twin Peaks.
Yes.
I'm not going to go off about Twin Peaks, but if you look at what he did, he was he almost was like an A-list director in the 80s.
Yep.
Who said, no, I'm going to go off and do whatever the hell I want. And he broke every rule in Hollywood, and he was just like, I don't want to do these. I think Dune probably soured him on ever doing that type of work again. And then he just went off and did whatever the hell he wanted. And some critical successes, some financial successes, but really a guy that not everyone's going to be like that. But, with Snyder, I think it's interesting that so much of his early career was music videos and advertisement because it's that quick shot. It's not a 2-3 hour long epic, and I feel like those quick little shots of his they work in these tiny little segments. We were talking about the first 10 minutes of Watchmen.
Yeah, fantastic.
I don't care if you don't like the movie as a whole. I don't see how you can't watch that first 10 minutes and be like, this is incredible.
Yeah, you're talking about through the credits,
right? The whole opening sequence, because this is the stuff he showed there. He showed his storyboards, and then we watched the scene. The whole opening scene where comedian gets attacked and killed, and then the opening credits, which to this day might be the best opening credits in like a comic thing.
Yeah.
He said we were talking about those text pieces earlier. His influence with that was he wanted to show those kind of elements. He was
giving glimpses of what we got in the novel, because the tech stuff in Watchmen is the book.
Right. Well, it's all sorts of different stuff.
It's
there's
different
newspaper clippings.
But a majority of it stems from that book that I can't remember who wrote it in the actual.
It's the original Night Owl.
The original Night Owl.
Yeah.
It's his book and like clippings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So seeing that stuff play out in the opening sequence was very well done, and I thought. But again, it wasn't. You needed more of that because in Watchmen, the book itself, you get so much more out of that.
Well, and here's what's going to happen. There's talk of a 12-episode Watchmen miniseries from Warner Brothers. That's been, rumored, wanted for a long time. It's actually been rumored recently of they're thinking about doing it. And that's probably the best way to go about it. But again, you're looking at a literal adaptation of it. It's not.
Yeah, you could do one issue per episode.
Yeah, yeah. Because those are
And
chunky books.
Yeah, and we go
Or
back
chunky
to
issues.
I'll just repeat myself. The question at the beginning: do you want to see a literal adaptation
Right.
of the comic, or do you want somebody to riff off the comic?
Right, right.
And my philosophy, I don't really have an answer on this. Kind of watching Watchmen or watching 300 or watching, for example, the first Harry Potter movie. After reading it, me as an audience member, my attitude was kind of I already. This is literally note for note, panel for panel, beat for beat. And then I kind of go, gosh, I wish they'd just take a creative leap somewhere. But then I totally understand the other part of take a creative leap in your original work. Don't say you're adapting Watchmen and set it on 9/11.
Yeah.
I get both arguments.
Yeah. Well, I'll always remember the remake of Psycho. Did you ever watch that?
Yes, the shot for shot, yes.
And you kind of got to wonder, you're sort of damned if you do on this movie and damned if you don't. No matter what you do, if you remake Psycho, people are going to hate it. If you do it exactly shot for shot, people are like, what's the point? Right? So it's like, how do you do this?
Well, it's out in theaters right now.
Well, and again, I think it takes a very different approach to it. It's very different from the source material is very different from the original movie, but it retains. I haven't seen it. I'm just going off what people have told me, but it retains similar elements and themes. But again, I don't see it as being held as like nothing against it, but it's not Watchmen. It's not Psycho, right? I mean, these are widely regarded as some of the best pieces of their form of media. Yeah. And so, I don't know what you do with a Watchmen, with a new Watchmen take. If it's just the same thing, kind of what's the point? If it's totally different,
what's the point?
What's the point?
Yeah.
Well, now again, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the tone of his talk when he was talking about Watchmen, it definitely felt like he was saying, "Look, I did what I thought was best," but it almost. Again, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it almost felt like he wasn't even a big fan of the thing he did. He was just like, this is the only way it would even remotely work.
Like, this is what you would have gotten, otherwise you would have gotten something shittier.
Something really bad. Or not what you wanted, as Kevin would say. So, at least that's how I took it. Again, I don't want to put words in his mouth. But, again, hate all you want, but the guy was super nice, endlessly fascinating, and I love seeing this stuff. And he did talk about Wonder Woman briefly at the end, where someone had said, his wife is a producer and has worked in Hollywood. That's how he met her. And, with the success of Wonder Woman, what's the role of women in Hollywood going forward? Is there? And he said his push has been for years is to put women in positions that they never held in Hollywood before, and not just the same secretarial position or assistants or whatever. Like, he's like, if you want to be a grip, go be a grip. If you want to run lights, run lights. If you want to, do sound, do sound. He's like, he's like, him and his wife have been actively hiring women in all sorts of different fields within Hollywood, because obviously he has a big reach and a big studio, and he's a lot of people rely on them. So, Wonder Woman was the production of a lot of women worked on that movie, and that all comes from him and his wife. Kind of, I'm not going to say they were the ones that hired everyone, but a sort of push. So hopefully that continues, because obviously made one hell of a movie, and but you could definitely use some new talent. And as we're seeing with Star Wars, I'm sure you guys heard about Star Wars losing the director, and like, well, I guess just give it back to Abrams, right? It's like, why isn't there a list of like 30 people that could do this? It's weird that they just keep relying on the same like 3 or 4 people. I got nothing against J.J. I love J.J.
You do realize what industry you're in, right?
But again, should it be that way? All right, I'm not saying I know. You talk about comics,
yeah.
Well, you talking about just women in comics? Or?
No, I'm talking about like you were saying like there should be directors lined up, not just Abrams. I'm like, well, I mean, in our industry, it's like, the big two just kind of have the people that they kind of gravitate towards, and you don't really get too much. I mean, you get the Tom Kings every once in a blue moon.
Oh, but no. If you look at the creators at Marvel and DC right now, and you go back 5 years, it's a completely different group of people.
Oh, I know.
Because people cycle out of Marvel. At the top end at Marvel and DC, they cycle constantly. The majority of the writers... here's how you know you're getting old, because the majority of the writers at Marvel and DC are younger than us, and that was that was not the case a couple of years ago. We were at the end of the old when we were like starting this podcast. That was like the end of the old guard, right. And now we're like 6 years in, and they're all fucking kids, and it's like it's terrifying. We've gotten older, and they've gotten younger. It's scary as hell. But no, it's editorial. Head of the companies, yes.
Yeah.
The creative side is skewing younger and younger. Obviously, you have some people, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the old guys are they're not turning. Mark Waid's about the only guy they're still turning to. They're not. Kurt Busiek's not working for Marvel or DC. He probably wouldn't want to either. But he's not working for Marvel or DC. They're not going to any of the old artists.
He's doing Astro City.
That's his own thing, though. He's not writing Justice League or Avengers or anything, and they're not turning to him for that. And he's not going to probably accept it if they wanted.
Well, you still got Peter David.
Again, there's a couple guys, right?
I'm just trying to list them.
But Peter David has kind of fallen into like the Chris Claremont role of like, you get your thing, you stay there, you've done so much for this company. If you leave, you're going to sue us into oblivion. So just, this is actually an awesome segue too. We're just going to make you as happy as we possibly can, and there you go. And speaking of older creators that the Marvel and DC owe more than they could ever repay to, Len Wein, legendary, I'm going to say possibly the most important comic creator of the post-Kirby, Stan Lee, like 60s era. And I feel like a lot of guys don't know this guy, and they don't know what he's responsible for. But we'll talk about this in a second. Len Wein passed away on the 10th over this weekend. He was 69 when he died. I know he had suffered on and off health problems his entire life. I follow him on Twitter. He's not very active, but he does post on there occasionally. And his wife was talking about him going into his wife or his girlfriend, whoever.
It's his wife.
Is his wife?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought, am I like misremember? Did they get divorced? Or is there something else? Or am I
So
thinking,
This is just
Glynis Wein was the colorist back in that was his ex-wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is more recent.
So are you just getting confused in your old age, or just forgetful?
No, I didn't know. But she said he was going for surgery, and that was a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I haven't looked up to see exactly what happened. But Len Wein, the books that he was responsible for are the foundation of almost the entire modern comic book industry. And Kevin, one of the reasons you're here, you knew him, you talked with him, you worked with him. What's the deal?
So I know you say people like Stan Lee, Kirby, Ditko, Neil Adams, Carmine Infantino, the Mount Rushmore of comics, and I just don't think Len Wein gets his due.
Yeah.
And my relationship with his work, so I'll just tell you, I was thinking about it today before coming here, and I was kind of reviewing what he had done as far as like through the eyes of me as first literally learning to read through comics. And I was going, oh, that was Len? Mm-hmm. That was Len? That was also Len? And so I'll just give you like a handful of examples here.
Well, I think there's three. There's two creations.
I'm talking about from my personal, not his creations.
Yeah.
I read a JLA, JSA, Seven Soldiers of Victory, multi-part crossover.
Yeah.
That blew my young mind that you could have that many superheroes in one comic, and it was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That's Len. I read a story drawn by Neil Adams, his last Batman story of the old school, and the climax of the story was Batman chained to the ground being attacked by a werewolf. I couldn't imagine anything cooler than that. That was Len Wein. The very first Incredible Hulk comic I ever owned and read had the Hulk shrunken to subatomic size, and he was like in a fantasy world with a green girlfriend, and they were fighting a giant like from Jack and the Beanstalk. And I thought it was so cool. I didn't even know the Hulk. I just thought it was so cool. That was Len Wein. I read a Batman comic, Detective Comics, where Clayface is now a evil like blob of protoplasm in basically an astronaut suit, and his power is he pulls his glove off, and if he touches somebody with his bare melting fingers, he melts that person into a puddle. And I thought as a kid, that is the most terrifying, gross, awesome villain ever of all time. Len Wein created that Clayface.
Nice.
That's his. There was a Treasury edition, Batman versus the Incredible Hulk, which as soon as I saw an ad for that, the house ads in the comics, I was on red alert. I had to get this comic no matter what, no matter how many stores I had to go to on my bike to get it. That's Len Wein. When I think of the comics of my youth and the ones that were really the most memorable, and I'm not talking about Silver Age and Golden Age reprints. I'm talking about like fresh stuff off the stands, off the spinner rack. It's like Len Wein was everywhere.
Yeah.
He was. Now, you can talk about his importance overall in the industry.
Sure.
Speaking as an individual reader, and then I'll come back to him as my interactions with him later. But just as a child, he was so important to me as a comics reader and teaching me to love comics. I can't even say enough. I just can't.
Yeah. Well, there's 4 works of his, 2 as a creator, 2 as an editor, that to me, I said 3, I meant 4. To me, basically form the entire foundation of modern comics. You have, of course, he created. This is 2 in 1. He co-created Wolverine, right? Hulk 181, 182. He was the writer, as well as Giant Size X-Men #1, which introduced Nightcrawler, Storm, Colossus, Thunderbird. The X-Men, obviously, one of the bedrocks of modern comic books. Through the late 70s into the 80s into the 90s, through the movies, the X-Men are such a huge part of the comics. Now, he didn't create the original X-Men, but the original X-Men were boring and canceled in reprints, and nobody cared about them. He created the X-Men you actually care about, right? Chris Claremont and John Byrne didn't create these characters. They're given all the credit for the stories, but he's the one that actually put this team together and made them. A co-creator, right? I mean, there's other people working with him, obviously, but he was the writer at this point. Pardon me. On the other side, he co-created Swamp Thing. A little horror comic book. Had a couple appearances, a little miniseries. Or 12 issues, 18 issues, whatever. I don't even remember the original run. Well, it went for a while, but he didn't do the whole thing.
Right, yeah. He did the early issues with Bernie Wrightson.
Yeah.
The first 10, 12, something like that.
Yeah. Now, Swamp Thing itself may not be the comic that changes the world, but it's what happened because of Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is the reason Alan Moore comes over to work at DC. Alan Moore, you know Alan Moore, everyone knows Alan Moore. Alan Moore's work on Swamp Thing leads to more European, more British and UK creators coming over, which leads to personal favorites like Grant Morrison of mine coming over, but also Neil Gaiman, who I've gone on record as saying I think created the second most important comic book of all time next to Action Comics #1, I think is Sandman. I think Sandman is the second most important comic that has ever been created. It completely changed the industry, who reads comics, how comics are perceived. I think comics, although in the 70s and early 80s there was a little more acceptance, but I think Sandman is the thing that triggered that permanent change.
Sandman is the thing that brought comics to a literary level. Brought
it's a completely different audience.
The same. It brought it to this.
I'll give you third. I'll give you Action Comics #1, FF, and then Sandman. Those are the changing points in history.
Let me interject one thing about Swamp Thing, is that Alan Moore came on 21, I think, issue 21. Okay, for history's sake, Len, the creator of Swamp Thing with Bernie Wrightson, was brought back as editor of Swamp Thing at that point, and he hired Alan Moore, who proceeded to deconstruct Swamp Thing with Len as editor. So this is his baby, Len's baby. He brought on this unknown guy from Britain and gave him carte blanche to say, tear down. The first story Alan Moore did, or the second one was a story of everything you thought you knew was a lie.
Right.
Well, wow, that's great for Len to sit back and just let that unfold, because he could have easily said, keep telling Swamp Thing stories
Yeah.
in the mold of Swamp Thing. He found Alan Moore, he hired Alan Moore, and then he sat back and let Alan Moore run with his own creation.
Yeah. No, on an editor end, he was the editor of New Teen Titans, which to me,
Perez stuff.
Yeah,
right,
the Wolfman Perez. Yeah.
Again, New Teen Titans shifted comics dramatically. Everything that you know from the Bat family, kind of that's the start of all the modern take on the Batman family and the hero character and the kid characters like Cyborg and Firestar and Raven. The influence of the New Teen Titans and that team has reverberated through comics to today to be one of the most important comics of the time. Just they're probably the most important kids in the comic industry.
Well,
are the New Teen Titans.
It was the new X-Men. It was the new Fantastic Four. It was something that the younger generation could get behind. Was this Teen Titans?
There were, Peter Parker again probably set the standard, but New Teen Titans.
Yeah,
refined that.
That was DC's X-Men.
Yeah.
Then when I was buying comics, when you had the Perez Wolfman Teen Titans edited by Len coming out at the same time. Now this is after Byrne had left the X-Men, so this would be the
Romita Jr. stuff.
Paul Smith.
Sorry. Yeah.
So you could get those issues coming out every month. A Perez Wolfman Teen Titans and a Claremont Paul Smith X-Men.
Yeah.
Boy, those were some golden days. I'll tell you, those were some great days.
And then, obviously, Watchmen. He edited Watchmen. Arguably, what most people consider to be the best comic ever written. So, if he did nothing else, those four things would have cemented him as one of the most important people in comic books. And yet he did so much more. He wrote every character at Marvel and DC at some point, in some fashion. He edited almost every character at Marvel and DC in some fashion. I'm just looking over here. Good old Wikipedia has a nice list here. He worked on the Wonder Woman reboot with George Perez. Camelot 3000. Was that the first 12 issue? Was that the first 12 issue miniseries?
And that was on the Baxter paper. Is what they called it.
Yeah. Again, a format that was not done at the time.
Yep.
Again, I'm not going to say I don't know. I'm not going to say he created this format, but the idea of this 12-issue miniseries was not a thing. Like, this was something that he was sort of.
So we can blame him for all the Marvel garbage we get?
Well, I guess you can blame him for everything because he basically did it all. Yeah.
Damn you.
Brock, you should also know he was the editor on your Batman and the Outsiders as well.
Yep.
So.
There's a nice hardcover that I might have to take.
Yeah.
Even though I have them all ready to get bound.
And he also worked on Legends, the Legends series, which
gave us
created Suicide Squad, obviously a very important current day comic. Endlessly influential at the time, but not a sales juggernaut, and not remembered in its time, but obviously has become such a major thing in the current day. But I mean, hell, creating Wolverine alone is like one of the biggest achievements in comics, just what that character is.
And I think you can find a video on YouTube from Hall H at Comic-Con one year where Hugh Jackman goes into the audience to put the spotlight on Len as the Wolverine's dad, is what he called him.
There was a funny story. I don't remember who was, because a lot of stories were being passed around comics, the comic Twitter and social media the last few days. But one of them, they were at the premiere for one of the X-Men movies, and it was Len Wein, and I don't remember who was with them. I may have been Kurt Busiek, I can't remember, but they were there, and he said Len was pissed because they started letting all these guys in. And they're like, why didn't you let me in? They're like, who the hell are you? He's like, I created all these guys, right? I mean, he wasn't mad. He was just like, oh, these celebrities get to go in, but they wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me, right? So, yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, like you said, Kevin, look, I'm not going to say like I've been banging the drums for Len Wein my entire life, but it's sort of until you look at the guy's work, you're like, holy shit, this guy, like, when they're alive, you don't think about it, right?
Right. Because unlike, and you know what, this is not a diss at all, because I love Morrison. a Morrison comic is an event and screams Grant Morrison on every page. Len Wein was as a writer, a quiet professional.
Yeah.
It was just good comics.
Yeah.
I would kind of compare, a perfect pairing to me would be Len and Dave Gibbons did a run on Green Lantern in the 80s that I loved. Len and Garcia Lopez.
Yeah.
Somebody where it's just good, solid work.
Yeah.
And those people don't get appreciation until after they're gone.
Yeah. And I think, again, just creating any one of those characters is groundbreaking. But the fact that he created so many of them is it's scary. A lot of these guys are all our 80s guys are starting to pass away now. Those 70s, a lot of these guys aren't going to be around too much longer. If you see these guys at cons, definitely let them know how cool their characters are and how much you like them. Because I'm sure this guy probably doesn't have every kid coming up to him telling him how much he loved Wolverine. But
well, on that note,
I want to hear the story.
So I have two Len stories. One is many years ago. This would have been late 90s, I think. Somehow I ended up spending most of a day with Len Wein at a Comic-Con. And Ryan, you've seen a book of mine. This doesn't really play too well on an audio podcast, but I have this book called History of the DC Universe. It's a hardcover of the Marv Wolfman, George Perez miniseries.
Yeah, it came out during post-crisis, right?
Yeah, right after Crisis.
Does that thing go for some money since it's out of print?
Well, anyway, mine has signatures all over it. Because my goal was, which I told to Len, was it has a big gatefold picture in the center of the book. It has all these DC characters, each is drawn by a different artist. Mm-hmm. And so my goal was, I want to get every artist who did a character on this. And I also want to get everybody from the foundation of DC, as many as I can, to sign this. And somehow, I still can't even put this together how this happened. Len and I went around Comic-Con, and he introduced me to every DC person who was there. I'm talking about Silver Age, Golden Age. I've got the creator of Aquaman from the 40s, the creator of The Flash with the Mercury helmet, Martin Nodell from the Golden Age Green Lantern, guys who are long gone now, Silver Age guys, Bronze Age guys, Denny O'Neil is in there, Steve Englehart, Michael Kaluta, Gil Kane, Infantino, Irv Novick, Dick Dillon, all these people that anybody who's reading comics at that time would know. And Len is just taking me around on this tour, and I'm getting signature after signature. Joe Kubert is in there. All of these people, thanks to him, he was like my tour guide through Oz.
That's amazing.
Meeting these people for a whole day, as if he had nothing else to do. This is the part I can't figure out. And I kept saying to him, "Do you have to be somewhere?" No, wait, come over here. I see so and so, and there we'd go. And the part I was looking through the book today before coming here, and the part that still I kick myself to this day is, you know who I didn't get to sign that book?
Yeah.
Len Wein. All that time, and he didn't sign it. But it's like a who's who of Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age DC creators in these covers, thanks to him.
That's incredible.
So that's late 90s. So the last time I saw Len was, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago at a WonderCon in Anaheim. And I'm walking around, and there's a table, a folding table like what we're sitting at now. Again, good visual. And sitting at this table was Len Wein and J.M. DeMatteis. I just knew them by sight. They're by themselves, no fans around, literally nobody there. It's a signing table. No name tags, nothing. Just these two dudes sitting there. And I was like, I did a double take, and the idea popped in my head, like, I can't walk past this. I have to make sure that they're known. So I went and I got them name signs for the table.
Nice.
Because they were just sitting there waiting for fans to come up. You just mentioned how you see these guys at cons. There was nobody around.
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean, DeMatteis, we could talk about his work.
Yeah.
When he's gone.
Have you seen? Did you somewhat related, but not off topic? Did you see that Kevin McGuire cover?
Yes, for the omnibus
coming out for Justice League International.
Yeah.
I need a poster of that.
You have that as the wallpaper on your computer.
I know. I need like a poster of that. It is incredible.
You would put that as a wall.
I would just hang it on my ceiling.
Just
and
do it as a wall mural.
Anyway, just to finish on that, the last time I saw Len, that was 2 or 3 years ago when I had the idea that I had to find some signs for these two legends. And, I mean, obviously I can't make fans come up and ask for books to be signed, but I couldn't just walk by and leave these guys sitting there at a table. Because, Comic-Cons now, a lot of it is, 200 booths of pop figures, 200 booths of video games, and 3 tables of comics. Okay, so these two are legends, legitimate legends, sitting there with no fans. And, I chatted briefly with Len. I don't know how well he remembered our adventure from 10 years before, the day at the con, but chatted briefly with them, and that's the last I saw him. And I said, I'll see you at the next con. And I've never seen him since that. But, that's why I wanted to be on tonight, was just to pay tribute to a guy, just a pro, for the characters he created, everything he wrote and edited, and also, by the way, the nicest guy you would ever meet. My advice to people who are fans of celebrities or artists or something, never meet them. Just enjoy the work and never meet them, because it's a coin flip what you're going to get.
Right,
but Len was the sweetest guy to take me around a con all day when I'm sure he had better things to do. That's all. I should just be able to say that and be done. Right? Love that guy.
That's awesome. That's great. I want to see this book. I feel like, did you show me that a long time ago?
You've seen it, yeah.
Bring it back. I have a terrible memory.
Okay, yeah.
I'll remember it this
Yes,
time.
he does have a terrible memory.
Yes, we're on record with that.
Yeah. I'll show some pictures. All right. Well, we're going to move on. We got some questions. Go enjoy some comics by Len Wein. You probably already have. You probably already are.
Okay, since we're not doing random picks.
We can do random picks.
Okay,
Len,
all right.
Len Wein pick.
I got one, but we'll do it at the end.
Yeah, let's do questions and we'll do those picks. Let's see. We got some here. Let's see. I'm just going on the list here. Indie Gator has got our first question for the night. He says,
Indie Gator?
He says, the first appearance of the black suit Spider-Man was huge in its time. Later became Venom, as I'm sure you all know.
Was that Web, or was that...
That was amazing.
It was amazing.
Well, Secret Wars.
Secret Wars 8,
I mean, they
think.
both
Yeah.
they came out at the same time,
Jazz
right?
hands.
Yes.
So what has had a similar impact in the last decade?
Like costume impact?
No, that was a weird time where a bunch of Marvel changed a bunch of their characters. And the Hulk turned gray around that same time again. And they do that.
That was the McFarlane Hulk.
It was a little later, yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I feel like a couple characters went through some changes right around that same time as the Black Costume Spider-Man. But yeah, that sort of change. I mean, there was a story to it. I feel like there isn't a lot of stories to why they changed like random costumes and stuff like that these days. Like, what would be like the equivalent of something that's like that today? Wonder Woman cut her hair. People get really mad about that.
The electric blue Superman,
Yeah,
although that's not
electric blue.
today.
That's
The electric blue and
Yeah, right.
one.
Yeah, I was going to say last decade. You got to go beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go further back.
Yeah.
In the last
There's
decade?
not a whole lot of originality in the last decade.
I know Punisher's getting War Machine's outfit coming up in the Legacy stuff.
As in Iron Man War Machine?
Yeah. That could actually be kind of cool. I could see that. Punisher flying around in War Machine, blowing the fuck out of people.
Jesus.
That's all right. Yeah, I don't know. That's New 52, but people were just mostly mad at their costume changes. They weren't happy about them.
They were
like
fucking pissed.
They didn't like those collars.
They didn't like Wonder Woman's outfit either.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
As far as a character looking drastically different, I would say Harley Quinn. But I wouldn't say that had a huge impact.
And there wasn't really a story reason behind that.
yeah.
They just changed her.
well, they did that really well in that book. I mean, Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor did an amazing job transforming Harley from kind of this mesh of the animated to the newer one.
I just kind of remember she just had a different costume. Like, I don't remember there being a big story behind it or something.
Oh no, I'm referring to like the Suicide Squad look.
Right, that's what I mean. She just was suddenly...
No, they did it in the comic of just, I want to get my hair done. Oh, this looks so cinematic. Like, that's the line. It looks so cinematic. And I was like, okay.
Wow. Probably not quite the same weight. Let's move on to Steven. I don't know. Craig, I don't know.
It's polarizing.
I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer for you. None. Zero. It'll never happen again. No black costume Spidey. Steven says, I love Forever Evil and Dark Side War. Me too. Those are good books. Are there any other great crime syndicate stories aside from JLA Earth 2 by Graham Morrison?
Oh, yeah.
Which is
Yes.
There you go. There's your answer.
I'm going to ditto that. JLA Earth 2.
Incredible comic.
Yes.
Weren't they Crime Syndicate in one of the Countdown minis? The Search for Ray Palmer?
Terrible.
That was
terrible.
Yeah, that's not good.
I can't. I'm just trying to remember.
Kurt Busiek did a Crime Syndicate JLA comic, but
Was it JLA Classified or? Oh no, it was an arc. Yeah, it was one arc. Yeah, yeah.
I have gone on record multiple times of saying I love like doppelganger characters and reverse characters. I love Bizarro. I love
Reverse Flash.
Reverse Flash. I love the Crime Syndicate. That said, not a lot of great Crime Syndicate comics
what's
out
the
there.
questioner's name?
I just had where was it? Steven.
Steven.
Yeah.
Steven.
Go back to your Len Wein 70s 80s JLA. I'm sure there's
They're in there.
Yeah,
they're in
yeah.
there. But as far as like a really good Crime Syndicate story, and I'm talking as somebody who has the DC Direct figures of the original Crime Syndicate when Owlman actually had an owl on his head, and like they look ridiculous, but they're still cool.
Yeah.
The best Crime Syndicate story, I would say, is JLA Earth 2.
Yeah.
With Forever Evil being...
Yeah, they're cool characters,
Yeah.
but they just didn't do a lot with them. It's a little bit like Squadron Supreme.
Yeah.
I found like Squadron Supreme, they had that original miniseries after, years later when they were created, which I thought was way ahead of its time. I think things genius. And then what's his face? Straczynski did that more recent, like the 2000s. Yeah, Supreme Power, but it just sort of
It fizzled out. Really
yeah.
fast. It started really good though.
The first 10, 12 issues.
It was freaking amazing at the beginning.
Yeah.
but, like
Just nothing.
A lot of other Straczynski stuff that just kind of goes
nowhere.
Else.
Yeah. And then like those are cool characters, but like they have like 2 books worth checking out in a 50-year history.
Yeah, because the problem is they're just doppelgangers of the JLA.
Yeah.
And so you just have the JLA fighting themselves.
Yeah.
And that's kind of hard to tell a story. Like, here's Power Ring versus Green Lantern. Like,
But I feel like Reverse Flash has had a ton of awesome stories in all his various fashions, and every time Bizarro shows up, it's incredible.
yeah, it's just as a team battle,
doesn't quite work.
It's a little harder because even when you go back to the Avengers of the 70s with the Squadron Sinister, which were like the JLA doppelgangers, then it was like the JLA versus the Avengers. It was cool and different.
Yeah.
And I love the Crime Syndicate. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's tough.
Well, I think that the difficult part there is when you're dealing with a group, you have more characters. You have to intertwine stories and so on and so forth.
Well, I think until Forever Evil, there was not
really
characterization to these guys.
And that's what brought the Crime Syndicate, I think, forward was Forever Evil and the stuff in.
and that's really recent. It's only a couple of years ago.
And
Characters that have been around for like 50 years.
Yeah. JLA Earth 2 to repeat it one more time.
Yeah.
Because the cool thing about that, very mild spoiler, is that the Crime Syndicate and the JLA don't really fight in that.
Right.
Which is what makes it kind of a unique story.
The end of that book is one of those things where you're either going to love it or absolutely think it's a huge fucking cop-out.
Right. Yeah.
But it's Morrison, so it's genius, right? Toby just shaking his head. Why do you even show up for these things anymore?
Next question.
It's your smile when you say it that really is the trigger.
I just look at you and smile. Question from Brandon. Very topical question. He says, how would comics be different if 9/11 never happened? Do you think to be more political or less political? Or do you think some story arcs would change?
Another political question about comics?
I think overall it would not be very different in the long term. He said storylines would change. Civil War. Civil War probably wouldn't have been. The Civil War comic would not have been written, at least not in the fashion that it was.
We wouldn't have gotten Tom King.
We wouldn't have. See if specifically because of.
Well, he joined the CIA because of 9/11. And then that pushed him to where he is today.
Okay,
so
yeah, I guess
you
that's
didn't
true.
read the 2-part interview?
That's true. No.
Shame on you.
No, I read
it was really good.
Wouldn't have had that shitty Amazing Spider-Man issue where Dr. Doom cries. Magneto? Dr. Doom? Magneto? Who cries? Some of them cries. Someone that shouldn't have cried. It was a bad comic. Straczynski did a 9/11 tribute issue of Spider-Man, and it was like, again, I appreciate what they were trying to do, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that 9/11 we probably wouldn't have had. I mean, it's kind of horrible to say, but you know, disasters kind of bring out creativity in people and memories of those events and things like that. Like, you talk to, people, our parents or your grandparents, and they had Pearl Harbor, or World War II, they had Pearl Harbor, then there's the assassination of JFK. There's, these really traumatic events that happen to kind of shape American society in a sense. And 9/11 was, that for a lot of people. So, I mean, as of this year, like all of like the kids that come, like a lot of the kids now in high school hadn't even been born yet.
Yeah, no, it's terrifying. Time passes too fast.
Yep.
It's from Mike. He says, could the big two copying Valiant's pre-order bundles be the way to smooth out attrition? He doesn't like pre-orders, but thinks comics deserve to sell better. So, quick explanation, and then the answer, which is no. The explanation is...
So why are you even giving the explanation?
Well, to tell people what this is, Valiant does a thing called pre-order bundles, where basically the comic store, in theory, gets customers to pre-order the first 4 issues or 6 issues of a comic.
Yeah.
We order this bundle. We don't actually order the individual comics. Because we order this bundle, we get these limited edition comics.
Pre-order variants. Yeah.
Which has additional pages and more but not story content, but it's additional
it's additional editorial and script and sketch pages. And it's smack dab in the middle of the book.
The problem why that doesn't work is because no one actually does that. We just order them like a regular comic book and sell them to the customers. And it's actually gotten kind of annoying because I keep forgetting which issues I've pre-ordered and which ones I haven't. So I've actually stopped doing that.
So I think the best answer to this question is a few weeks ago you asked me if I gave a shit about the pre-order covers, and I said
it's super annoying.
No, I don't.
Yeah, it's just super annoying. It's super annoying. So it's an interesting idea. Valiant tries a lot of stuff, but
I can see it if it's something like a sub variant where how many you're going to order, and that's the variant you get for subs, but don't make it this weird.
Well, their whole idea, IDW's started this thing called the subscription variant, where it's only order for people that subscribe to the comic, but it's whatever, it's just a regular comic. You can order as many as you want. There's no rule behind it. So, Justin says, if Marvel Legacy fails, do you think Marvel will collapse, or will it just bump up their pre-order incentives or other variants? Look. If Bryce was here, he'd tell you that Marvel failing still means they're the number one comic publisher every month. And it's not. And Bryce, you are 100% correct. Marvel will not fail. Even if Legacy sells the exact amount of comics they sell now, they'll still be the biggest comic publisher. The fear long term with Marvel is, does Disney care about single issues, or will they farm out the comics to just be, IPs to
more like digests or
just like kids comics. Yeah. I don't have the info in front of me. I should have looked this up prior. Marvel is, I guess I should say Disney because I'm sure it's more Disney, but Marvel is putting a huge push on a new line of preschool and younger comic. It's web shorts. Some print material, comics, board books, things like that. Similar to Superhero Squad, but I don't think quite as annoying looking. Superhero Squad is insufferable, which is awesome. I mean, that's totally. There's no reason why these characters shouldn't be in every kid's home. The
thing isn't that kids market, the young adult market, been improving over the last few years?
Oh yeah, but this is little kid market, which is something that Marvel has never done it, but Disney is huge in, right? Yeah. So it makes perfect sense for them to take some of these characters and introduce them to that market.
Oh great. Some 1-year-old's going to have a Gwenpool book.
The only way Marvel collapses the print comic books is if they start selling hundreds of copies. We are still so far from Marvel collapsing. They could cut half their line tomorrow and still be very successful.
Well, you look at was the tail end of the 90s when we had that bankruptcy stuff and all that.
The sales are awful.
Just doing back issues. When you go, I never see copies of Daredevil those last few issues. I never see copies of...
Well, the print runs are so tiny.
Because the print runs are so tiny, and the numbers got so low.
But if you look at it, I mean, they know what the comics are selling. They're paying their creators, they're paying their editorial, they're paying to print them, they get the profit on the end. They know they're never losing money on any of this stuff. They may not be making as much money as they want, but they're never losing money on this titles because it's all pre-sold. They only print however many the retailers are going to order. Now, the retailers could suffer, but Marvel's never going to lose a penny. So, no, I mean, Legacy bombs, the stores suffer, Marvel doesn't suffer.
Well, the thing is the problem with that is yes, they still get money, but if stores are going under, then that means there's going to be less opportunities for Marvel to have those types of sales.
But, I mean, it is... I'm not going to say Marvel and DC are too big to fail. I don't want to use that that phrase, but
stupid phrase.
If Disney wanted, the profit of one movie could fund Marvel for like a decade. The Marvel publishing arm for like a decade. So it's up to Disney. Disney could close it tomorrow and they wouldn't lose a thing, right? I mean, they'd just be like, sure, well, cool, we have all these IPs done. Go away, right? I mean, at this point, it's the world around the comics is so much larger than the actual comics. We're a little bit like DC in the 80s and 90s where, the story goes that Warner Brothers had no idea they owned DC Comics. Mm-hmm. They just knew they had these things called Superman and Batman. They had no idea that they published comics. I'm sure there is something of a similar feeling at Disney now with Marvel where they're like, the comics could do whatever. A couple $1 million here and there, who cares, right? That's pocket change. It's completely meaningless to Disney as a corporate brand, as a global brand. So, question from Peter says, going to Paris in December, any geeky spots you'd recommend or non-geeky? Well, yes, many non-geeky spots. I'm sure
just message him.
I'm sure you've seen things like the Eiffel Tower and other great places in Paris that are worth visiting. However, I looked into this when we went to Paris last year. And Paris is not a very geeky city. I really had a tough time. There wasn't a lot, right? But there's a road, and I don't have the road in front of me, where like kind of all the geek stuff is. And there's a couple comic book stores, and they're all within this one like little stretch. One of the stores is called Album Comics. They have two. I think they actually have another store, but there's two stores right next to each other. There is Album Comics, like ALBUM, like a record album for us, but over there, albums like what they call the big books. They have an American store, which has mostly French language American comic books, but it's Marvel, DC, the independent stuff, superheroes, toys. It's awesome store, super great store. Kitty corner to them across the street is their Belgio-Franken European comic. Toby would fit right in. 2 stories, top store and basement. This is where they carry all their BD or bande dessinée. What is it? What's it called? Bande dessinée. These are like the French comic albums, right? This is like how they... I don't speak French, so I'm butchering how we actually say it. But although I'm not familiar with the vast majority of stuff that was in that store, it was really cool to go through there and just see what they had because it's completely unlike the American stuff. Obviously, things like Asterix and Tintin and Lucky Luke and a few of these others I'm familiar with, but the vast majority of things I was just not familiar with at all.
Marsupilami.
I was going to say, but Toby, you would fit right in. You would know what all this stuff was.
My childhood.
Yeah. It was really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Kevin, you ever been?
To Paris?
Yeah.
Yes, but not to any comic store in
Nothing
Paris.
geeky?
No.
No.
So I can't help out on that.
It's geeky in different
It's
ways.
just supposed to be like romantic in Paris. And
I went to Euro Disney when he opened.
Yeah.
That's.
I was going to say, yes, Disneyland Paris is pretty geeky as well.
Yeah.
So, but very different than any Disney American thing. It was shockingly different, actually. It was really weird.
You were traumatized.
So I think Disney actually fully bought Disneyland Paris. Like it was a they didn't own it outright.
Oh, I don't know.
And so I wonder if it's going to start changing because it was weird.
I just remember staying in some kind of resort that was Wild West themed, and it was totally like you were in the Wild West, like dirt road and everything.
They're opening it won't be done by the time you're there, but isn't Disneyland Paris is not where they're opening the Marvel hotel?
Maybe
it's like the Marvel
New York?
Cinematic Universe, like like
a New York hotel.
with all the props from the Marvel movies and stuff. And I'm pretty sure it's Disneyland Paris, so that's where that's opening.
Have to sharpen
Well,
my
clearly that
Thief and
listener
Steal.
needs to reschedule his vacation
I
to
know.
Paris to wait for that.
When that opens, I'll be the first one there. Let's see. Here's one that I think we all have an answer for. Brian asks, how do you shelve comics at home and at the store? Alphabetically? By publisher? How often do you reshelf to fit new material? Toby doesn't shelve. He just throws stuff on the floor.
Mine makes no sense at all. My Marvel shelf starts with Daredevil, and then it goes all into the other three characters. Then somehow it starts going into the classic Marvel stuff, like Captain America, and then it ends with X-Men. And I think at the very end, put the space stuff, because it's out in space. I think it's geographical. I think it's downtown.
It sounds like New York.
Yeah, it's
Hell's
like
Kitchen, and then
New
you just
York,
go out from there.
Yeah, and then it's like further and further out, and then eventually all America, and then space. So I think that's on the DC side, very
Batman.
similar. It's all Batman, and then
It's
it kind
all
of goes to the
Gotham,
other
and then
cities.
it's out
Yeah,
from
and
there.
then eventually I go to space, which is JLA to me. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Somehow.
At home, I do straight alphabetical, but I separate out trades and hardcovers.
So all the hardcovers in one section, all the softcovers in another section? Because I'm straight alphabetical. I do have I have a bunch of the Dick Tracy hardcovers, so that's kind of in a separate area because they're weird size. I have all my Duck stuff, all the Donald Duck stuff in a separate section.
Well, when it's alphabetical, like everything, like you have Marvel and DC mixed.
Everything mixed, everything mixed together. Yeah.
No,
So
no.
I organize
Marvel
them
on one side, DC on the other side, all the independent stuff in the middle.
I organize them in a fairly similar way to how I have them organized here, which is frustrating only because Charlie organizes them very different, and he organized half the trades in the store. So there's two conflicting organizational skills at the store right now, and I have to decide if I'm going to change all of Charlie's. But Charlie's may actually be better than mine, so I may change all mine to match Charlie's.
So that means the store's going to match Charlie's, and then your house is going to match Charlie's?
No, my house is going to stay with mine.
You just wait till I organize your books. It's going to make a lot of sense.
So how I do it is just pure alphabetical, right? By character. So Detective Comics would be under B.
The question about this: do you put numbers first?
Action would be under A.
Where do you put numbers?
I don't think I have any book that's a number as far as graphic novels.
100 bullets.
I mean, I'm talking graphic novels. I'm not talking
1602
singles. That's what my Neil Gaiman section.
All the Vertigo stuff is by
wait, you
itself,
have a
too.
section
I have 2 shelves of Neil Gaiman books. Yeah.
at home.
Yeah, at home. Yeah,
I do that with movies. I have my director corners. I have my set director's corners that I have separate from my actual movie
but
thing, which is all alphabetical. I do the movies alphabetical, so make a lot of sense there.
But with the trades, how I organize them is again similar to how I have it here. Whatever. So again, you have to realize with DC and actually Marvel as well, the chronological nature of the books is only a really recent thing. DC's chronological trades only started with New 52. As long as DC's been doing trades, they don't do Superman and Batman and Action and Flash. They never did a lot of chronological trades.
They did it with Batman.
No, they didn't.
No,
they
Batman didn't get volume.
I have my Frank Miller stuff, and then went into all the crazy crossovers.
I mean, there are events and certain elements
but they go in order.
But right, so what I'm saying is the way I do it here is currently it would be I kind of go newest to oldest. So Rebirth is the first section.
See, I go by storyline.
Behind
it doesn't
that
matter
would be-
if the story is newer, but if it's in the timeline early, I'll put it early.
So that's what Charlie does.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So here I go. Rebirth would be the first set of books because it's the newest. Then followed by New 52. And then, because those are numbered in order. That's what I mean. They don't have Batman Volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for everything, right? I mean, we're talking numbered in order.
You have to do it yourself.
So when
Green Lantern is a perfect example of that. The John stuff, it's alphabetical.
and that is a case where I do it in order, even though it's not numbered. I put them in order. But
what goes first?
what?
What trade goes first?
Rebirth?
No, for Green Lantern.
Rebirth?
Oh, you put the Rebirth one first?
Yeah, because that's the first. That's
What's
the first
one from the actual series?
No Fear.
There we go.
So
I gotta see his John's love.
I go that, and then I do basically all the mini specials and everything after that, just in alphabetical order. So like, whether it's whatever happened in Men of Tomorrow is under Superman W. JLA Earth, or we're talking about Earth 2 would be under
all
E.
in storyline of the story.
But a lot of the cases that
goes at the end.
Where does Dark Knight go? That's not in this continuity, right?
That goes at the end.
Where do you put all the Elseworld books?
That goes at the end.
Right, so that's my end is all the other stuff. Basically, Rebirth and New 52 would be right up front. In the case of John's, yes, I have those in chronological order because that's one where they actually did collect them all in order. Right, it's a rare case pre-New 52 where DC did do that.
The John stuff?
Yeah,
they didn't do numbered.
No, they didn't do numbered, but they collected the entire run.
Yeah, they did collect the entire run of his.
They didn't do that for very many books prior to New 52.
I'm going to make you guys squirm. So my books, like books, graphic novels, and movies are all arranged the same way at home, and it's this. I'll just talk about graphic novels for the sake of this. Hardcovers and softcovers are separate. Series are...
I do that too.
Mine are all mixed together.
Yeah. Well, no, I do that too.
Series are stuck together, so like the Sandman Absolutes are all together. Whatever.
Yeah, makes sense.
Those are together, but beyond that, it's the Wild West. I just throw things anywhere on the shelf. They're all like randomly pulled. Companies mixed, creators mixed, everything. Because that way, for me personally, I look at the shelf and it's this mishmash of random stuff, and I say, wow, I forgot I even had that. I'm going to read that. Whereas if it was a Batman book that was amongst 20 other Batman books, it would kind of, I don't want to say I wouldn't notice it, but it would kind of get lost in the shuffle. Whereas they're totally random. So my bookcases of novels and such are the same way. It's just totally random. And that way I look at it and I always see something fresh.
That's interesting.
I'm never going over to Sharp's house.
See, when it comes to like
It'd drive me fucking nuts. I would reorganize his shelves like while he was making me a drink.
See, I fought Leanne and I lost on this because I wanted to do like Blu-rays. I wanted to do like TV shows separate from movies and everything.
Yes, no, I do that.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
In fact, I have separated my Blu-rays.
Did Leanne make you file it together?
Too.
Oh yeah. I lost that fight, and I
have all my Disney
all.
together in one section. I have all my animated features that are not Disney in one section. I have my Don Bluths in one section.
I wanted to do Disney in chronological order.
I got that. I have that until I stopped caring because there's a few Disney movies towards the end there where I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
I'm talking like their theatrical animated.
Yeah. Well, I was very keen on collecting all of them till a certain point.
The questioner got a lot more than he bargained for with this one.
Yeah. No. Did never talk to nerds about organizing.
Right, yeah.
About this forever. Yeah.
Don't even get started.
I feel like we all know each other so much.
Don't even get started on single issues.
Spoiler level 5.
Well, Brock talked about single issues. For me, single issues are pure alphabetical chronological order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever the next series. Annuals at the end of each series. Miniseries after the
My main collection is like that. I have like... So with New 52, there was just a bunch of... I was just getting so much that I was like, I'm not going to be able to sort this in. And I just had a kid and like another on the way. And I was like, I'm not going to have any time. So I actually have New 52 separated out. But the rest of the stuff I would sort in because then it's a little more manageable to sort a smaller amount into like a ton of boxes. But I continued that with Rebirth. So actually, I have, but I've mixed them now. So it's like the DC Rebirth and the DC New 52 stuff are mixed with, the 52 stuff in the front. I just haven't pulled the trigger on putting it in the main.
Oh, I have like 10 boxes that need to go into my larger collection. I mean, I'm it's not like they're all 100% organized. But that's my big...
Anybody listening, put your reading shit in order.
Yeah, that's my plan. That's my plan this winter is to completely redo my single issues and get all the boxes.
I will say, as much of a fan of the chaos as I am, at home. I can't stand it in a store. I should almost be like honorary comics conspiracy employee, because every time I see any used graphic novel out of order here, like in the wrong letter,
hold on.
I have to fix it.
Oh, in the wrong letter. Okay, because
the wrong letter.
If you put that alphabetical,
No.
we don't do that.
No, the wrong letter.
Okay, yeah.
Or in the bins, if a number, somebody puts a back issue, it drives me crazy in a store.
I did Iron Man yesterday while you were at the
is
Zack
so
Snyder
bad.
thing. I'm like, really?
Every time.
Like, every fucking time. It's like,
awful.
is it just like there was a drunk comic book reader that comes in and goes, oh, it's Iron Man. Pulls some bucks out and then just puts them back anywhere? Like, it's ridiculous.
Actually, Ryan tells me what you're going to do that night, and I generally go mess it up on purpose.
No, it's Iron Man every single time.
It's that drinking problem.
It's probably out of order right now, and I just fixed it.
I don't know how it happens so often. Let's do some random
Why
picks.
did you smile just right now?
I didn't do it.
Because he does it. I
some
knew
random-
it, you
Let's do
bastard.
some random picks and get the hell out of here.
We're doing Lee Wein.
All right.
I can do whatever.
Mine is hardcover Tales of the Batman, Len Wein, of course. Although many of those books in that series are good, for those who haven't read them, it's a hardcover collection from different eras. Each book spotlights one writer or one artist. So Len Wein is in one volume. I believe even the Batman versus the Hulk, I'm not sure if that's in there or not.
Probably not. Maybe like an old version, but I
That
don't
really
think it would
needs to be read in the epicness of a giant treasury edition, but then we're getting into back issue prices. But anyway, Tales of the Batman, Len Wein, that'll be my random pick.
Can I make a pick of something that's not out yet, but it's very topical to this episode? It's definitely something I'm picking up, so it's something I've read a lot of.
Is it going to be in print?
It is going to be in print on the 20th. No, this is October 4th, so very soon. Swamp Thing is a great character, and seems to be one of the best ways to get this in a current format, because I don't know that.
Are you going to pick the omnibus?
Yeah.
They had those hardcovers that were called like it was a book called
Like the Roots?
Roots of the Swamp Thing.
Okay.
I don't know if that's still in print or not.
Is that basically those combined? Because I don't know that collected all of
the Roots of the
this.
Swamp Thing is not as much as the omnibus.
Yeah.
It's the first however many issues fit in there.
So if you want to see what Len Wein did on Swamp Thing, you should get the Swamp Thing Silver Age omnibus. This thing's $100. Don't get me wrong; it's a little pricey, huh?
Bronze, isn't it? Bronze,
Bronze Age. Did I say Bronze Age? What did I say?
Silver.
You said
Oh,
silver.
sorry, Bronze Age. So because Swamp Thing was not around during the Silver Age. Swamp Thing, the Bronze Age omnibus is what it's called. It collects House of Secrets 92, Swamp Thing's first appearance. Swamp Thing 1 through 24, that's the original run. Saga of the Swamp Thing 1 through 19, which leads right up to issue 20, which is where Alan Moore. It's funny that they don't have 20 in here, because 20 technically completes that story arc.
Yes. I think the Roots of the Swamp Thing trade had the first things that you it had the House of Secrets and the first number 1 through
24.
No. What was the first thing that
Swamp Thing was 1 through 24, and
Yes.
Saga was 1 through 19.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
The Roots of the Swamp Thing trade has House of Secrets and Swamp Thing 1 through 24.
Okay, but not
and
Saga.
it stops there.
Okay. Because Saga of the Swamp Thing 20 is Alan Moore's actual first issue, but it's him completing the story. So it's weird that that's not in there. But
Well, I know why it's not in there, because I've already collected that issue 20. That issue 20
That's in
starts
the Alan
everything.
Moore
That's
stuff.
in the Alan Moore
but
stuff.
it really should be in this.
Well, the thing is if
complete the
they
story
because they haven't done the Swamp Thing Alan Moore omnibuses yet,
But it
so they
co-
might be coming out with those, and if they're coming out with those, it just goes nicely with
Completes
that.
that.
I
It
have
completes
no problem
that.
with them having it in both.
In both, yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
they should do that.
However, it's also collects Saga of the Swamp Thing Annual #1. So this is every Swamp Thing prior to this is every major Swamp Thing comic prior to Alan Moore's appearance. I mean,
It comes out next month.
yeah, very soon. So again, not out yet, but
And you can get a really good story in there of Batman and the Swamp Thing drawn by Bernie Wrightson.
yep. That's a classic issue.
Yeah, great issue.
Well, I'm gonna cop out and go with Batman and the Outsiders #1, because that's the first book I picked up, and
I only
it was
picked that, 2 weeks ago?
The omnibus.
Yeah.
We were just talking about omnibuses, and that's Len Wein. So that actually makes it. Man, a lot of his stuff coming into print all of a sudden
I think
at the same time.
He's editor on
Yeah.
Batman and the Outsiders, yeah.
But that was the first comic book I ever picked up. So, and I, like you said, did not know, like off the top of my head, that was him. So, I mean, he influenced where I started. So
Is Batman and the Outsiders.
They have a hardcover.
Yeah, it's not an omnibus. It's just a more traditional
like
hardcover.
1 to 12, I think, is the collective.
I think it's more than that, isn't it?
1 to 23.
Is it 1 to 23?
It's not that many, is it? 1 to 23?
Good radio.
This is actually
Good
we have
radio.
this here. Does it
1
say?
to 13 plus the so it's got the
13
Batman and the
special.
the Brave and the Bold 200, Batman and the Outsiders 1 through 13,
That's their
and the
first
New
appearance.
Teen Titans 37, which
That's
is
the
the crossover.
This is like
Yeah.
the first Black Lightning and Kitana I was reading.
Yep,
This
yep.
is
Yeah.
gold
Brave and the Bold 200 is their first appearance, and then the crossover with the New Teen Titans, a great issue as well. So.
Yes, yes.
Do you want a second pick? I'll give you mine because I
No,
suck
no,
at this one. I'll defer to the master.
I did not intend this to be suggest Len Wein stuff. It doesn't have to be at
No,
all, but
oh,
it
yeah,
it
no.
actually
I'm
worked
sure you
because
have
there's-
another one lined up.
there's
So
so much
please,
good stuff.
I
please.
just came with one in the barrel for Len, but I will, as long as we're at it, I will just give a plug in general to that Tales of the Batman line. Jim Aparo is my all-time favorite Batman artist, even more than Neil Adams, and he's got 2 books in that line, so Tales of the Batman and then fill in the blank.
That's the two books, right?
I'm just saying the whole series in general is an interesting
Yeah.
look at that character.
Yep. All right. That is an episode. Thank you guys all very, very much. We'll be back next week. I think Charlie's out sick. I think Bryce is going to be back next week, too. We thank all our good friends at Patreon. Julian Titus has the Nerds Without Pants podcast at pixelbit.com. Make sure you go check that out. Ryan Hess has the Blowhards podcast. That's about video games.
They blow very hard.
Blowhards.libsyn.com. Jody Lawson has canon the Triad Comics anthology at triadcomicstudios.com. Go check out some books there. And then Mario Miranda, he's got some friends down in Burbank, California that run a game, tea shop, and cat rescue. What the? Cat rescue? This is nuts. Called Geeky Teas and Games. Magnolia Boulevard on Burbank, California. Make sure you check those guys out. Also, want to thank our good friends at Manoa Place, Sam Che, Talon
That's like
Bray.
the main street in Burbank.
Yep. Craig Anderson.
They got a good spot.
Craig Anderson and Joe Duff. Patreon.com/comicconspiracies, where you can go to kick us at least $1 a month and get some cool bonus features. We owe you guys some bonus stuff. It's been a little lax. I think we got a Bryce briefly coming up soon, and maybe another Charlie special. Toby, get some more
Roundup.
Get some more roundups coming. Did you end up doing that one?
What?
You guys we're supposed to do a roundup the other week. Did you do that one or no?
We were?
Yeah, I thought you and Charlie were going to record. Like, you recorded, 3 episodes or something. But you recorded
No,
one?
we
or?
recorded one that we started at midnight and ended at 3 in the morning.
That's like 3 episodes.
No.
That's 1 episode?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one you released. That was the Doctor Who special.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it was 3 hours long. I just went to it as a midnight. We probably started at 1 or 1:30, and by the time we were done, it was close to 3 o'clock, and I'm like, we could do another one. And he goes, no, I need to go to bed.
Well, patreon.com/comicconspiracy. We'll get you guys some bonus content on there soon. comicconspiracypodcast.com, geekbox.net, and iTunes is where you can find all our previous episodes. Rate and review us if you can on iTunes. It always helps. The comicconspiracy at geekbox.net. You can email us some long-form questions there. Digital.comicsconspiracy.biz. That's our digital storefront. You can go buy comics from us. We get a nice little kickback when you buy from there. So don't forget to subscribe. It's automatically added to your list every week. You don't have to worry
Always
about
having
going
sales.
back. Lots of sales. ConspiratorBrock.com. That's Brock's blog and video pull list.
Yeah, I got 2 new unboxing videos up for the Harley Suicide Squad hot toy and
Cool.
the Harley Deluxe bombshell.
Now, the Doctor Who special is also the UK trip special. It's kind of a...
Oh, the roundup.
2 for
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was okay. We would put that up. Wanders in the Fourth Dimension, Charlie's Doctor Who podcast, and Etsy.com/shop/Leanne Hill Art. That is my wife, Leanne. That is her Etsy store where you can go pick up some cool prints. Kevin, you want to pimp anything?
KevinSharpWriter.com is my website with links to all the best episodes of the Comics Conspiracy podcast.
Hey. With a special guest named Kevin Sharp on them?
So those are the ones you're on?
Yes,
Okay.
those are the ones, yes.
Ryan Higgins, Ryan. That's me. I'm on Twitter.
No. You need to go get his book After Dakota. Really, really good read.
Thank you, Brock. We're still waiting on the Higgins review.
When's the comic?
He has to actually fucking read it.
When's the comic version coming out?
Will you take an audio?
Audiobook? Oh, maybe. You gonna read it? Do an audiobook?
No, there was a way more talented and glamorous performer than myself.
Nice.
Narrating it.
Maybe it will. Ryan Higgins, Ryan, that's me. I'm on Twitter. Brock is Brock Sager. Bryce is Larson Bryce. Toby's Toby XI. Charlie's Insanity and Chaos. Store is Comics Con Store. Kevin, you are...
That Kevin Sharp.
That Kevin Sharp. I was going to say real Kevin Sharp, but no. Just that Kevin Sharp.
That Kevin Sharp.
Geekbox Comedy
Not the other
Button.
one. Right.
Button. Good job, Brain. I'll Talk Podcast and Manga Machinations. Those are other podcasts on the network. Go check those out, and we'll see you guys next week.